Hi everyone, it's me, Arielle, and it's Wednesday Warriors. This week I'm going to be talking about sports and over-exercising. It's a very important topic in eating disorder recovery because I think those who aren't engaged in sports necessarily do often have a problem with exercise. How much is too much? When should they begin to exercise again, or how much should they continue to exercise if they've never stopped? And basically, what is just a good balance when in recovery? And it can be very tricky. So the question with this video is really, is there a way of continuing sports or exercise without it being too much? And do you need to take time out? I truly think that this is a question with an answer that's going to be different for everyone because everyone is different. Everyone has a different eating disorder. Even if they have the same diagnosis as someone else, everyone's eating disorder manifests in different ways, creates different health problems, and it's really important to take care of yourself because without your health, you really don't have anything. If you lose your health, you can't propel yourself forward, to do good things. There's not going to be anything there left for you. I want to talk about why it's important to remember that your recovery is your recovery, and it's hard not to compare yourself to other people just in general, but it's hard not to compare yourself to other people in recovery, and it's something that you really do want to keep from doing. You want to look at your life and your needs and your health and your support system and really decide what is right for you. And while mentally you might really have the desire to continue playing sports or to continue to exercise the way you're used to exercising, it may not be in fact what's best for you. And it's a hard thing because to feel like you're giving something up that you enjoy can be a very difficult transition. It can be a very difficult adjustment, but sometimes it's necessary for the greater good being your health and your recovery from your eating disorder. And it's important to keep in mind that the ceasing of the sport or the exercise or the lessening of it, if you're not going to stop it completely, is just temporary. It's not something that you have to do for the rest of your life, to give something up for the rest of your life. It's just temporary. It's something that you need to do for you. And I think if you can think of it as a gift to yourself, even though it might seem more like a punishment, really just keeping your way of thinking positive and going in a positive direction can make all the difference. If you have a severe lack of energy, if you find it hard to concentrate on either schoolwork or professional work or daily things that you need to do, it's probably a good idea to stop exercising until you're more well. And as I said, it is very hard to do, but it probably is for the best. Especially if you're used to a very lengthy or extensive workout regimen, or if you're playing a sport that involves a lot of training and practices. I think especially with stopping a sport, especially if you're on a team of some kind, it's very important to get the moral support of other people on your team or your coach or your trainer, whoever applies in the situation, to let them know what's going on to the extent that you're comfortable with, and to let them know that you're stopping what you're doing for your own good, for your health, because it is best. And I think that anyone who is responsible and thoughtful is going to understand that that's the best thing to do. If you're going to continue exercising but maybe lessen your exercise regimen, or if you are thinking about getting back into the swing of things, maybe you've been in recovery for some time, or you've been doing some kind of treatment where exercise was off limits, and now you're thinking about reincorporating that exercise back into your life, and you're concerned about how much is too much, or should you be doing this, or what should you be doing at all. What you want to look at is your intake. And I know this can be difficult, especially for people who count calories. I'm not asking you to count calories. I'm just asking you to think about if the amount of exercise you do is then compensated by how little or how much you eat. And you want to remember that if you purposefully add more exercise into your life because you have eaten more, it might not really be a good idea. You want to just examine that. You want to assess yourself. You want to stay aware. And similarly, if you are going to reincorporate exercise or you are going to stay exercising, you want to look at what you're eating and really think about, is that really enough for the amount of energy that I'm using? Is that really enough fuel for the amount of activity that I do in a day? And if the answer is no, then that's something to look at, because what that's going to mean is that you're going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to make the decision to exercise less so that you can maintain eating what you're comfortable with eating at that point in your recovery, or you're going to have to make the commitment to incorporate more food and eat more and add more intake to your diet in order to keep up with the exercise that you decide to do. So it's really a give and take, and it is hard because it involves a lot of thought, and sometimes when your mind gets going, it goes into those bad places where you're putting too much emphasis and thought on what you're taking in. But I think if you give it a little thought and your overall goal is your well-being and making the right decision, and you look at it through that lens, it will be a little bit easier. You have to understand too that there is really a fine line between exercising and over-exercising when you are in recovery from an eating disorder, because as much as you might want to be a quote-unquote normal person, you are recovering from something, and that does take a little bit more thought, and it does warrant a little bit more self-care. If you know yourself well enough to know that if you start working out or you start running, that you could and probably would go overboard and keep adding things to your regimen, then maybe it's best to continue to take a break, or maybe get someone in there with you to be that moral support that can give you a nudge and say, okay, this is enough now, so that you can get a little push in the right direction to let you know that it is enough. And it's not to say that you wouldn't know that on your own, but if someone is going to help you to say, okay, you've done enough for today, then it really might be a good balance. You can also try to just give yourself days that you're allowed to exercise, and let that exercise be like a little bit of a reward, and understand that exercise doesn't have to be 7 days a week. And you can, not stop exercising altogether, but not exercise every single day for hours a day. The other thing to keep in mind is if part of your recovery is that you need to gain weight, it might not be ideal for you to exercise right now. And that might just be a very hard concept to grasp. And it might be one that you feel is unfair, or one that you're unhappy with, especially if you are an athlete. But it may be what's best just temporarily for right now. And I think the key word is temporary. It doesn't have to be your new lifestyle. You don't have to have that mindset that you're never going to exercise again. I think really, to put it frankly, if you're not eating 3 meals a day and, some kind of a snack or 2 snacks, you really shouldn't be exercising. I mean, if you eat 1 meal a day and that meal is breakfast or that meal is dinner, and you want to exercise too, that's not healthy. Exercising when you're not eating enough is counterproductive. For those of you who are younger, and even if you're not, if you are engaged in a sport that involves other people, it's very important to let your coaches or trainers know what's going on. I'm going back to that because I think that eating disorders can be very secretive, and I know it's very personal to let someone in and explain to them that you're trying to recover, but sometimes, even though it's scary initially, it's really for your overall well-being, and keeping people in the know and letting them, be able to almost supervise and observe what you're doing, and just kind of have a keen eye to understand that some things may not be as healthy for you right now is very vital. I'm going to leave it at that for today, simply because we're doing a 4-week rotation. This is week 2, and on week 4, we're going to be talking about maintaining recovery while still engaged in a sport and representing that sport, and separating overexercise and enjoying exercise, which I did touch on a little bit in this video, but I don't want to go too in-depth into it so that I can go in-depth in a little bit more 2 weeks from now. So in closing, be kind to yourselves and give yourself a gift of rest and relaxation. And if you are finding it a struggle to stop exercise altogether, or to exercise less than you're normally used to, or less than you want to be doing, just keep in mind that it's temporary. It's just for the now, and maybe this is what you need for the now. I wish you all the best, and I will see you next time.